This film wasn't just a war epic. It was a $25 million act of historical penance. A film so obsessed with authenticity, it destroyed a legendary director's sanity, killed a pilot, sparked congressional outrage, ignited a father-son studio war, and proved that Americans would rather watch victory than face their greatest military humiliation. Behind the meticulously recreated explosions and historically accurate battleships lay a catastrophic production nightmare. What audiences saw as a balanced, respectful examination of December 7, 1941 was the product of director firings, nervous breakdowns, real deaths, and corporate warfare that reshaped Hollywood power structures. Today, we're diving into the wreckage to reveal 20 weird facts about this film, and stick around for a bonus fact about the massive naval fleet that took 40 days to destroy. Number 20. Kurosawa's complete breakdown. The greatest director Japan ever produced lasted exactly 23 days before his firing became inevitable. Akira Kurosawa, the legendary auteur behind Seven Samurai and Rashomon, was hired to direct the Japanese sequences in what should have been his triumphant Hollywood debut. Instead, it became his nightmare. Kurosawa arrived with a 6-hour script for just the Japanese side, double what Fox had budgeted. He demanded the crew salute amateur actors playing admirals whenever they passed. He fired his assistant director for refusing to physically hit other crew members. One drunken night, Kurosawa and his assistant vandalized their own sets. The production fell catastrophically behind schedule. After visiting a neuropsychologist, Kurosawa was diagnosed as suffering from disturbance of sleep, agitated with feelings of anxiety, and in manic excitement. On December 24, 1968, Richard Zanuck flew to Japan and personally fired the master. Less than 1 minute of Kurosawa's footage appears in the final film. The humiliation contributed to Kurosawa's 1971 suicide attempt when he slashed his wrists 30 times. The firing ended his relationships with longtime collaborators Ryuzo Kikushima and Toshiro Mifune forever. Number 19. A pilot died. On January 13, 1969, Guy Thomas Strong crashed and burned in an Iwa cane field, becoming the first fatality in a production that would claim careers. Strong, a 35-year-old ex-Navy pilot, was flying an American BT-13 trainer modified to resemble a Japanese Aichi D-3 A-Val dive bomber during practice maneuvers with production air operations manager Art Wildern. The pilots were rehearsing dive bombing runs when Strong's aircraft suddenly nosed straight down, tore through sugarcane, and erupted in flames. He died on impact. The crash happened before principal photography even began, a dark omen for a production already cursed by Kurosawa's firing weeks earlier. For the crew, it cast a pall over everything that followed. Every time modified AT-6s dove toward mock battleships, every staged explosion became a grim reminder that real death lurked at the edges of fake war. His death would be echoed 3 decades later when another pilot died during the filming of Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor in 2000. Number 18. Congressional war declared. Representative John M. Murphy of New York proposed federal legislation to forbid the United States military from participating in commercial motion picture production after learning Fox had leased the USS Yorktown and active-duty naval personnel were assisting. The scandal erupted when it became public that Minoru Genda, the brilliant tactician who planned the actual Pearl Harbor attack in 1941, was serving as a technical advisor. Americans were outraged. The idea that taxpayer-funded military assets were being used to recreate America's greatest defeat, and that the very man who orchestrated the surprise attack was consulting on how to depict it accurately, felt like betrayal. Murphy argued this violated the military's purpose and potentially glorified the enemy. The Navy ultimately ordered that service members could only work on set during off-duty hours and had to be paid as civilian extras. Murphy's legislation failed, but the controversy damaged the film's reputation before a single frame appeared in theaters. Number 17. Accidental crash captured forever. During filming, Boeing B-17GN 620L experienced a genuine landing gear malfunction that became one of the film's most memorable sequences. The pilot radioed that the gear was jammed. As he circled, the production team scrambled to position cameras. The B-17 approached for an emergency landing, touching down on only one wheel. The port gear locked while the starboard remained retracted. The massive bomber scraped along the runway, sustaining wing damage. Miraculously, no one was injured. Fox's editors faced a challenge. The actual footage showed the one-wheel landing, but they needed footage leading up to it. The solution was crude. They substituted earlier footage of a different flying fortress whose landing gear had been manually retracted. Sharp-eyed viewers can spot the difference. The approaching B-17 has both wheels up, but the one that actually lands has one wheel down. The damaged aircraft was repaired and flew as a firefighting aircraft until it was destroyed in a 1973 crash. Number 16. Father and Son Destruction. This film began the disintegration of the relationship between Fox chairman Darryl F. Zanuck and his son Richard in a corporate bloodbath that reshaped Hollywood. Darryl had conquered the industry with The Longest Day, 1962, a triumphant Allied victory film. He believed lightning would strike twice with another massive war epic. Richard was never fully on board, understanding that The Longest Day succeeded because audiences love watching victory, not defeat. When the film's initial box office disappointed, $29,500,000 against a $25,500,000 budget made it technically profitable, but far below expectations. The knives came out. Richard fired Darryl's girlfriend, producer Genevieve Gilles, from the lot. Darryl retaliated by convincing the Fox board to fire Richard as head of production in December 1970, just months after this film premiered. The film that sought to honestly depict both sides of Pearl Harbor ironically destroyed the family relationship at the studio that produced it. Number 15. More expensive than war. The producers spent $25,500,000 to reenact Pearl Harbor, more than Japan had spent launching the actual attack, adjusting for inflation. This made this film the second most expensive film ever produced at that time, trailing only Cleopatra's notorious budget overruns. The comparison became darkly comic. American filmmakers spent more money recreating defeat than the Japanese had spent achieving victory. The budget spiraled through countless cost centers. 3 years of pre-production, 2 separate production units filming in different countries, Kurosawa's wasted expenditures, full-scale battleship mock-ups, a fleet of miniature warships, 28 modified AT-6s, 5 B-17s, the USS Yorktown lease, construction of Battleship Row at Fox's Malibu Ranch, 224 contract actors, and military-grade pyrotechnics. When the film failed to recoup expectations domestically, insiders whispered that Darryl Zanuck's ego had outstripped his commercial instincts. Yet the film eventually turned profitable through international release and decades of television rights. Number 14. Zero Zeros existed. There were no Japanese Zero planes available, so the production modified 28 Vultee AT-6 aircraft, American trainers, by stretching them 6 feet, and fitting them with fiberglass nose cones and modified wings to resemble Aichi D-3 AVAL dive bombers. This transformation required extraordinary technical skill. Engineers extended fuselages, reshaped wings, altered tail assemblies, and repainted them in Imperial Japanese Navy colors. The irony runs deep. A film obsessed with historical authenticity depicts the Japanese attack using entirely American aircraft modified to look like the enemy. The modified AT-6s proved difficult to fly, requiring pilots with exceptional skill. The 6-foot extension changed handling characteristics, making them less stable in dives and turns. After filming, 6 replica aircraft were donated to the Commemorative Air Force, which has used them since 1972 in the Tora Air Show, a traveling reenactment performed at air shows across America for over 50 years. Number 13. Massive Model Naval Fleet. The 20th Century Fox Miniatures Department constructed 19 Japanese ships and 10 American ships for model sequences filmed over 40 days at Sursen Lake on Fox's Malibu Ranch. These weren't toys. They were engineering marvels averaging 30 to 40 feet in length, built to precise scale with intricate detail. The American ships were constructed at a larger 1:16 scale because they had to be blown up, and larger explosions photograph more convincingly. The ship hulls were made from fiberglass molds. Visual effects supervisor LB Abbott oversaw a team that spent $1,250,000 on the model shoot alone. The Sursen tank was modified to hold 4 feet of water instead of the usual 3. Blue vegetable dye was added to hide underwater rigging, and detergent created white water for storm sequences. 6 massive converted aircraft fans, 4 truck-mounted fans, and 15 wind machines created surface wave effects. Torpedoes were simulated by cables pulling compressed air nozzles underwater, leaving bubble trails. Number 12. The attack planner advised. The most controversial creative decision was hiring Minoru Genda, the officer in charge of planning the actual Pearl Harbor attack under Vice Admiral Chuichi Nagumo, as an uncredited technical advisor. Genda was the brilliant tactician who orchestrated the surprise assault that killed over 2,000 Americans. Now, nearly 30 years later, he was consulting on how to accurately recreate his masterpiece for American cinema. For some, this represented genuine historical reconciliation. Who better to ensure accuracy than the man who planned it? For others, it was obscene. American veterans groups protested that Genda was being paid to relive his greatest triumph, that the film was allowing the enemy to gloat over American deaths. Producer Elmo Williams defended the decision, arguing historical accuracy required primary sources. Genda's uncredited involvement demonstrates the film's obsessive commitment to depicting both sides honestly, even when it meant enduring accusations of collaboration with the enemy. Number 11. Oscar win, box office loss. This film won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects and received nominations for Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, Set Decoration, and Best Sound. The Visual Effects Oscar recognized L.B. Abbott and A.D. Flowers for their groundbreaking work combining full-scale pyrotechnics with miniature ship sequences. Yet despite critical acclaim for its technical achievements and historical accuracy, the film was considered a commercial disappointment in North America. The problem was simple. Americans didn't want to watch their most humiliating military defeat. The Longest Day succeeded because it depicted Allied victory at Normandy. This film showed Americans caught unprepared, slaughtered, ships sinking, military leadership exposed as incompetent. Daryl Zanuck had miscalculated. He assumed audiences would appreciate honest historical examination regardless of outcome. They didn't. The film performed spectacularly in Japan, where audiences appreciated the sympathetic portrayal of Japanese motivations and the absence of American propaganda. The box office disparity demonstrated that national pride trumps historical curiosity. Number 10. 3 years planning. The planning and preparation of this film took 3 years and 8 months before principal photography began. This pre-production period was longer than many films' entire production schedules. Producer Elmo Williams assembled massive research teams to examine American and Japanese military archives, interview participants, and reconstruct the attack minute by minute. Historian Gordon Prange, a former member of General MacArthur's staff in Tokyo, interviewed numerous subjects including Japanese military officers involved in the attack and obtained access to original logbooks on both sides. Prange's resulting book was first published in Japan in 1966 under the title Tora, 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 referring to the Japanese code name for the operation. The phrase literally means tiger, 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 and was the code word transmitted when complete surprise was achieved. Only in 1981 did a longer edition appear in English as At Dawn We Slept, The Untold Story of Pearl Harbor. The screenplay, based on Prange's research and Ladislas Farrago's The Broken Seal, was written by Larry Forrester for American sequences and Hideo Oguni and Ryuzo Kikushima for Japanese sequences. Both American and Japanese military reviewed the script for accuracy, ensuring this wouldn't be propaganda but documentary-style recreation. And let's face it, go ahead and like and subscribe, because the remaining facts reveal even darker secrets about this cursed production. Number 9. Documentary not drama. The film deliberately avoided casting major stars, seeking unknown faces that wouldn't distract from historical events. This was revolutionary for a $25 million epic, while respected character actors like Jason Robards, Joseph Cotton, E.G., Marshall and Martin Balsam appeared in supporting roles. The film featured no romantic leads, no fictional protagonists, no invented heroics. Every major character was a real historical figure depicted as accurately as possible. Critics panned this approach, calling the film clinical, cold, and dramatically inert. Roger Ebert wrote that it treats the cataclysmic events of December 7, 1941 in such a matter-of-fact way that it almost seems like a training film. But this was precisely the intent, to create something closer to documentary than war movie, to strip away Hollywood melodrama and show what actually happened. The Japanese sequences, directed by Toshio Masuda and Kinji Fukasaku after Kurosawa's firing, are fast-paced and organized, showing military precision. The American sequences show chaos, bureaucratic incompetence, and tragic complacency. The contrast itself becomes the drama. Number 8. Split production, dual perspectives. The production was literally split in two, with separate units filming simultaneously in different countries with different directors, cinematographers, and crews. Richard Fleischer directed American sequences in the United States, while Toshio Masuda and Kinji Fukasaku directed Japanese sequences in Japan after Kurosawa's departure. Wheeler shot American scenes while Shinsaku Himeda, Masamichi Sato, and Osami Furuya handled Japanese cinematography. This dual perspective approach was unprecedented for a major Hollywood production. Both sides received equal screen time and sympathetic treatment. Japanese characters speak Japanese with English subtitles, no Hollywood convention of everyone speaking accented English. The film shows Japanese military planners as intelligent, dedicated, and conflicted about attacking a sleeping adversary. It shows American military leadership as incompetent, bureaucratic, and criminally negligent. This even-handedness enraged American audiences who wanted villains and heroes, not historical complexity. Number 7. USS Yorktown's final service. Fox leased the decommissioned aircraft carrier USS Yorktown CV-10 for nearly $300,000 to serve as a floating platform for filming and to represent multiple carriers in the Japanese fleet. The Yorktown, an Essex-class carrier commissioned in 1943, had earned 11 battle stars during World War II and the Korean War before being decommissioned in 1970. This was her final service before becoming a museum ship in Charleston, South Carolina. The carrier's involvement sparked Representative Murphy's congressional fury. Critics argued $300,000 was far below actual operational costs and constituted a taxpayer subsidy for commercial entertainment. Fox countered that the Navy was scheduled to decommission the vessel anyway, and the lease generated revenue. The Yorktown appears in multiple sequences representing different carriers, her distinctive island structure visible in shots of the Japanese fleet. Her participation represents one final military operation before retirement, recreating the attack she was built to avenge. Number 6. Jerry Goldsmith's ominous score. Composer Jerry Goldsmith created an ominous, foreboding score that builds tension throughout the film's first hour, musically counting down to the inevitable attack. Rather than traditional patriotic themes or heroic motifs, Goldsmith's music emphasizes dread, miscommunication, and approaching catastrophe. During the attack sequences, the score becomes ferocious and chaotic, mirroring the confusion and terror of those caught unprepared. Goldsmith's work earned praise for enhancing the documentary approach rather than overwhelming it with melodrama. The Japanese attack scenes feature aggressive percussion and brass that capture military precision and overwhelming force. American sequences use strings and woodwinds to suggest bureaucratic confusion and missed warnings. The score never tells the audience how to feel, it simply amplifies what's happening on screen. Goldsmith's restraint demonstrates understanding that the historical events themselves provide all the drama necessary. Number 5. Full-scale practical destruction. Special effects coordinator A.D. Flowers created full-scale practical explosions that terrified cast and crew. Rather than relying on miniatures for everything, A.D. Flowers built full-sized aircraft, buildings, and structures specifically to be blown up. The airfield attack sequences feature real explosions destroying actual P-40s and hangars. In one sequence, a blown-up P-40's propeller tore loose and spun across the set, nearly killing stuntmen, a moment still visible in the final film that makes viewers' hair stand on end. A.D. Flowers pioneered techniques combining full-scale pyrotechnics with carefully choreographed stunt work. Actors ran through genuine fireballs, buildings collapsed on cue, aircraft erupted in carefully controlled, but nonetheless terrifying explosions. The shattering realism of these sequences, no CGI, no digital compositing, just physical destruction captured by cameras, gives this film an authenticity modern films cannot replicate. A.D. Flowers' work earned him a share of the Best Visual Effects Oscar for creating chaos so convincing it looks like actual war footage. Number 4. Multiple director replacement. After Kurosawa's firing, Fox scrambled to find replacement directors who could complete the Japanese sequences without starting over completely. They hired Toshio Masuda and Kinji Fukasaku, two respected Japanese directors who worked collaboratively to salvage what remained of Kurosawa's vision while imposing their own sensibilities. Masuda and Fukasaku inherited sets, costumes, some footage, and a demoralized Japanese crew traumatized by Kurosawa's breakdown. The replacement directors approached the project professionally rather than artistically, focusing on delivering historically accurate sequences on schedule and budget. Their workmanlike approach contrasts with Kurosawa's auteur perfectionism. Some critics argue the Japanese sequences feel less visually distinctive as a result, lacking the master's signature style. Others contend Masuda and Fukasaku's restraint better serves the documentary approach. Regardless, their ability to complete the production after such catastrophic behind-the-scenes chaos demonstrates remarkable professionalism. They saved the film from complete disaster. Number 3. Neville Brand's secret. Actor Neville Brand, who played Lieutenant Kaminsky in the film, was one of the most decorated American soldiers of World War II, the fourth most decorated serviceman in the United States Armed Forces. Brand earned the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, and the Purple Heart with 2 oak leaf clusters for his service in Europe. He fought in some of the bloodiest battles of the war and killed 30 German soldiers in combat. His casting in this film represents the film's commitment to authenticity. Hiring an actual war hero to play a minor officer gives the production legitimacy that no amount of research could replicate. Brand knew what military bearing looked like, how officers spoke under pressure, the reality of sudden violence. His presence connects the film to actual World War II, creating a tangible link between cinematic recreation and historical reality. Brand rarely discussed his military service, preferring to let his work speak for itself. Number 2. Filmed entirely practically. Unlike later Pearl Harbor films that relied heavily on stock footage, this film used absolutely no archival newsreel or documentary footage. Every single frame was newly created for the production, a stunning commitment to originality that makes the film's $25,500,000 budget more understandable. Films like Midway, 1976, would later incorporate actual combat footage to reduce costs and enhance realism. This film rejected this approach entirely. This decision forced the production to recreate everything from scratch. The Japanese carrier fleet launching aircraft at dawn, the approach over Oahu's mountains, the torpedo runs against Battleship Row, the strafing of Wheeler Field, the destruction of the Arizona. The dawn launch sequence from Japanese carriers, where the light gradually increases as more aircraft take off, required meticulous planning and timing. Every explosion, every sinking ship, every burning aircraft was created specifically for the cameras. The result is a visual consistency and control impossible when mixing new footage with archival material. Number 1. Japanese box office triumph. While this film disappointed at the North American box office, it became a massive hit in Japan, where audiences appreciated the sympathetic, non-propagandistic portrayal of Japanese military personnel. The film showed Japanese characters as intelligent, conflicted, and honorable, rather than as the stereotypical villains of American war films. Japanese audiences saw their grandfather's generation treated with dignity and respect by a Hollywood production. The success in Japan demonstrates the film's radical achievement, creating a war film that satisfies both sides of a conflict by refusing to demonize either. Japanese viewers appreciated that Admiral Yamamoto is shown as troubled by attacking a sleeping nation, that Genda's tactical brilliance receives recognition, that Japanese pilots are depicted as skilled professionals rather than kamikaze fanatics. American critics who called the film cold and clinical missed the point. This wasn't supposed to be propaganda. It was supposed to be history, messy and complicated and morally ambiguous, showing how intelligent people on both sides made decisions that led to catastrophe. The divergent box office results prove that audiences prefer comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths. Bonus fact: models destroyed forever. After 40 days of filming at Sursen Lake, the massive model fleet, representing millions of dollars in construction costs and thousands of hours of craftsmanship, was systematically destroyed for the attack sequences. The American ships, built specifically to be blown up, were rigged with explosives and detonated one by one. The Arizona's destruction alone required multiple takes from different angles, each explosion carefully calibrated to simulate torpedoes and bombs striking a battleship. Once destroyed, the models were gone forever. No digital preservation, no museum exhibition, just fiberglass and wood and paint sinking into 4 feet of dyed water. The destruction was captured by multiple cameras simultaneously, ensuring every angle was preserved. The miniature explosions used a combination of gasoline, naphthalene, and black powder to create realistic fire and smoke. Compressed air nozzles created underwater bubbles simulating torpedo impacts. The model's size, 30 to 40 feet, made these explosions genuinely spectacular, far more impressive than destroying smaller models. The footage was so convincing that documentaries and later films would license these sequences, repurposing this film models for decades. The destruction of the fleet cost more than many films' entire budgets, but it created images that defined how we visualize Pearl Harbor. Those model ships now exist only in celluloid, physical artifacts sacrificed to create eternal images. This film endures not as a commercial triumph, but as an artistic gamble that nearly destroyed everyone who touched it. Its legacy is complicated. The film that sought to heal national wounds through honest history instead proved that audiences prefer mythology to truth, that war films succeed through heroism rather than humiliation, that spending more than the actual attack cost to recreate it is either visionary or insane, depending on your perspective. The darkness behind its creation, the destroyed director, the dead pilot, the corporate warfare, the congressional outrage makes its achievement more remarkable. That a film this troubled, this expensive, this controversial actually got made and finished demonstrates either Hollywood's greatest strength or its greatest weakness. This film reminds us that the most important films are often the least successful. that historical honesty rarely sells tickets, that treating your enemy with dignity feels like betrayal to audiences seeking catharsis. Like and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes revelations that change how you see your favorite films forever. As Admiral Yamamoto feared, this film awakened nothing but box office disappointment, yet its terrible resolve to tell the truth made it one of the most historically accurate war films ever produced, a flawed masterpiece that cost careers, fortunes, and lives to achieve cinematic immortality.